welcome to the Dicebreaker podcast. I'm Alex Meehan. I am doing hosting duties for Miss Jarvis, who is unable to make this week's episode. It is episode number 43, and here is Alex Lolies, one of the hosts of the podcast, to tell us about what bingo call 43 is.
43 is a down on your knees, which is a weird one. It's so weird that I decided to look up why it was down on your knees, and it just says, harking back to wartime Britain, this phrase was often used by soldiers during the war.
Wow.
That's all I got.
So what, they'd say 43 down on your knees, or just down on your knees?
Either or. Depends if you're speaking to a superior officer. Say 43 when I'm talking to you, man, etc., etc. Hello, I'm Johnny Chiodini, and I'm also here.
Yes, that's Johnny Chiodini.
Mm-hmm.
He is also here.
Mm-hmm.
Little known member of the Dicebreaker team, Johnny Chiodini, everyone.
Well, I mean, to be honest, if you listen to the podcast, you may have entirely forgotten who I am, because it's been approximately 15 years since I was last on it. So It's nice to be back.
Yeah, it's lovely
that you're here.
Yeah, it's lovely to have you back with all your military knowledge, apparently.
Yes, from my many years of service.
I heard that last week, because I wasn't on the podcast last week. I heard that Wheels decided to take over the job and try and figure out what 42 was.
Yes.
I heard he did something about a poo.
Yes.
Funnily,
it was along those lines, yes.
Funnily, the bingo call for 42 is actually Winnie the Pooh. I don't know if you looked it up in the end.
Oh, don't worry. Wills eventually did look it up.
Oh, he did.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Yeah, after sort of freestyling his own version.
Well, I think Lolies and I are just so used to Wheels going like, no, that's it, I've decided, and that is definitively the answer, that I think we both assumed he wouldn't look it up.
Yeah.
But, well, I'm glad we finally put last week's number to bed, and we can crack on with this week's.
As if we didn't spend enough time last week on that particular segment. Let's talk about it some more. Yeah, Wills likes to make his own reality. You know, dreams big, and you know, screw anyone else who doesn't believe in that.
Exactly.
Dream. Johnny, would you like to tell us all about what you've been playing? Because this is a podcast about it's taken this long about tabletop games.
Tabletop. It's fine. 3.5 minutes is positively
that's
like that's pretty quick for this podcast, to be honest with you. Yes, I'd love to tell you what I've been playing. Mostly role-playing games, because obviously it's still quite difficult to get around the table and play lots of games with people. So recently I've been playing Deadlands, because I'm always playing Deadlands. I started playing in a Shadowrun campaign, which is tremendously good fun. I'm playing a face, and I never normally play like social-oriented characters, and I'm terrible. Like, I'm the worst smooth-talking face you'll ever meet. What else have I been playing? Blaze in the Dark, because Outside Xbox and Outside Extra have launched a spin-off series from the Ox Venture, which I GM. This one is Blaze in the Dark, GM by Luke Westaway, and it's great fun. And obviously I've been playing D&D, but in terms of actual tabletop games, I've been playing Set a Watch, because I got tired of not having it, because I left the copy in the office. I bought a copy, and I've been playing that every now and then when I want a solo game to sort of meditate with. I played Swords of the Coin, which is the upcoming expansion with Wheels on Tabletop Sim. We made a video out of it, which is on the channel, and oh, goodness me. We made a couple of mistakes. Like, we forgot in the first round to heal one of our campers, but we got our butts handed to us. Like, it is, I'm really excited for that expansion. I think the characters, like the new classes, are super, super exciting. But oh man, it just turned us upside down and shook us for our lunch money. But I think the most exciting thing I have played recently, and again, this was to make a video which is now on the channel, we played Dune, which is a TCG, and it's excellent. Like, it borrows elements from poker. There's kind of like a betting element in terms of the cards you field, and there's a reveal, kind of like the river in Texas Hold'em. But it's just brilliant. Like, there are these decks that are themed around different things, so you can pit sort of like monsters of legend versus cards inspired by, popular domain horror creatures like Frankenstein's monster or Dracula, etc., etc. But it's just a super quick game with it's really easy to pick up, and it's got brilliant card synergy, and all of the cards are puzzles. There are little sort of puzzle elements that will point you to URLs to kind of reveal this sort of ARG solution to things. And the more puzzles that are successfully completed in each pack, the more cards get unlocked for future release. And they've even done things like the first person to solve a puzzle. Because there was well, I mean, there are lots of puzzles in them, but they work with the first person to solve it to generate a new card. So it's kind of, the puzzle element is completely optional. That's my dog barking in the background. So that's just... I know I said the puzzle element is completely optional, and then we'll jump back in once she's
had her fill.
Sorry about this feature, Lolies. Okay, I think that's fine.
Right.
Puzzle element is completely optional, but there are real-world sort of rewards if you do take it on. It's fantastic. I've got some decks in the post from the States, and this honestly might be my new TCG obsession. I might stop talking about Doomtown Reloaded so much.
Your baby!
I know.
Cast aside.
Well,
the new kid on the block.
I feel terrible about this, but there's a new expansion coming out, and I've decided not to buy it. My friend and I, who play it together, we had a conversation. We were like, we haven't played in over a year. We've barely touched the last 2 expansions. And to be honest with you, I'm going to say it. It breaks my heart. We're worried about power creep. Seen a couple of characters, couple of dudes in there, and it's like, no, I don't want that in a deck. So it might be adios, partner, to Doomtown Reloaded for me.
Yep.
Sorry to start the podcast off on a somber note.
I didn't realize we were already going to the news element of the podcast.
Okay.
Well, that's more of a tragic personal disclosure than news, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, we're not going to put. No offense to Johnny, but we're probably not going to put a news piece on the site saying local legend Johnny Chiodini burns Doomtown collection.
Well, I should hope not, because I'm not burning my bloody collection. I'm just not adding to it.
It's
but
the
what
right
about you
way to send it off.
No,
I mean, if you want to make the headlines, Johnny, you're going to have to burn that copy.
Yeah, come on.
Doomtown Reloaded.
Only if you're going to burn every game you have that you're not adding to.
Every
all
game.
That's out of print.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
I don't have any games that I would not add to.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, what have you two been playing then? Before we
Can I go next?
Yeah.
Can we do a sandwich? Because I've played only Welcome to, which you've also played, Johnny.
I have, yes. This is an upcoming video. Actually, by the time the podcast goes live, it will be live on the channel, won't it?
Yeah. That's all I've played. I played that yesterday with yourself and Wheels, and I don't think I've played any other board games in. Well, I guess when was I on the podcast last? 2 weeks ago. What have I been doing this whole time? I don't know.
I mean, we played Soulbound, didn't we, Lolies?
Oh yeah, of course. We played Soulbound. Yeah, it was funny though because I was because the first episode of that went up last week, and when that went up, I was like, I don't remember playing this, so like I can't even really talk about it. I remember I was a tree, person, and that's all I got. My mind's just completely wiped it.
That's all right.
From all existence.
You were so invested.
I almost played Star Realms, but then I didn't. I plan to
burn
play
it, mate. Burn your
games.
collection. If you're not playing Star Realms, you should burn it.
Yep, put it on the fire.
Yep.
I'm planning to play loads of games this week, actually, but yeah, I haven't played anything in the last week or two, except for Welcome to, I think.
It is very good, that game, though. I'm really glad you introduced me to it. When you were explaining it, I was sat there like, you know, when you've got that horrible pit in your stomach, you're like, this doesn't make sense, and it should be clicking by now, and I think I'm stupid, and this is clearly my fault. I got that, and then there reached a point where by the end of your explanation I was like, okay, I understand what I'm doing now, I think. But, it's a corker. It's just very, very good.
Rolling rights, mate.
Yeah.
Well, flipping rights. In this
flipping
case,
rights, yeah.
We don't want to cross those streams. We want to keep it exactly what it is. Just say what it is.
How about you, Meehan?
Oh, what have I been playing? I have been playing Forbidden Desert.
Great game.
Yeah, we've had this discussion.
We have had this discussion. I'm not such a fan of it because it's nails, and maybe I've just had some really bad luck with it. But it's nails in a way that feels overly capricious. Like it's the sun beats down cards. They're just brutal. They're absolutely heinous.
To be fair, I haven't played Desert in ages. Island is a good one though.
I love Island.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I
contentious.
haven't played Desert in years.
But yeah, Desert.
So I don't remember.
I don't know, Desert. More than once, I've just found myself being like, "Why is this? Why are you like this?" But anyways, it's not my segment. It's your playing segment. Please carry on. I'm sorry.
I enjoy the difficulty. I like to be punished by the game.
Oh dear.
What?
We're back to the news bit
we're
of
gonna
this.
we're gonna get some emails about that one.
Alex Meehan of Dicebreaker fame likes to be punished.
In certain circumstances, like this one, like I
No, I
played.
understand what you mean. I am the same, I think. I like it to be nails.
I played Forbidden. The funny thing is, I don't really like really hard video games, but I quite like hard board games. I don't know why. I think it's because a lot of them are co-op anyway, so it kind of feels like you're in the toilet together. But I've played Forbidden Island and I don't remember much about it at all. I know that it's got like rising waters and you have to find magical pieces of something.
Yeah.
Whereas
That's pretty much it.
Whereas Forbidden Desert, the whole gimmick is there's a sandstorm and the tiles move as the sandstorm kind of blows. And I just think that's a really fun and interesting mechanic.
It is very cool, and like the fact that you almost use a grid system, don't you, to search tiles. It's very cool, but it's just sometimes you can feel very hemmed in when the sand tiles stack up and up and up on top of one another. You're like, well, we need to search this tile, but also I've got to remove 5 layers of sand from it. Whereas in Forbidden Island, you might remember that tiles are either fine, they're flooded, or they sink and are removed from the game.
Yeah,
So
tiles never removed from the game in Forbidden Desert. There's never that risk. It's always just like they can get... So you can run out of sand tiles, which causes you to lose, as well as anyone dying. So there's like multiple ways to lose the game. So take your pick of failures. We did lose, funnily enough. I died. My character, I was playing the archaeologist, I think, who can sort of take away more sand tiles at once. So they're really effective in that sense, but they've also got less water in their container. They can hold less.
that's it. It's the sun
Because
beats
of all
down
the sand
cards.
you're eating.
Yeah, which means that, we were doing really well up to like the point where we drew several of those cards, and I was just in a position where we were about to get water, and then I think we were trying to have it both ways. We were trying to get every player character onto the space where we'd find water so we could maximize how many people gained water at once. But by doing that, it meant we waited too long and I died of dehydration. But I just think that game is really great with the movement mechanic of the tiles. I just think that's so cool. I think it like immerses players into thinking, oh yeah, this is a sandstorm. Like the tiles are literally moving. It's like a living game board. And it does really push you. Like I think it's a game that people could easily dismiss as being like, oh, this is a game for kids or whatever, and then you sit it down and you open up and go, no, idiot. To prepare to get stepped on,
Slapped in the face.
fool. And then you lose potentially or win. I've won that game before. But it's usually very close, which I appreciate as well. I don't want to walk in the park.
No, absolutely.
So we played that. We played some Azul,
Lovely.
Nice.
which
Absolutely delightful.
everyone has talked about, to hear and back. So, if you've not played it, just play Azul for goodness
Been there,
sake.
done that, made the biscuits.
Yeah. Lolies made some biscuits.
Watch the video.
Watch the video. It's on.
Please.
It's on YouTube.
No.
No?
Yeah, and we played that and had a great time. It was really easy to teach to some new players as well, but it's just got so much depth. It's really great. Played that on GTS, so we didn't get the full experience of the beautiful components, unfortunately.
Oh.
The Azul on TTS is great though.
Yeah, it's really
the
good.
scripted version is fantastic
Yeah.
because it does all the maths and everything as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine that being handy,
Yeah.
because messing up in scoring is something I've definitely done before and not realised how many points I'm meant to get.
I think Lolies and I have probably played the same mod because it's one that's just incredible. You open up, you're like, I can't believe what's happening right now. This is the
You just
Wow.
put in the number of players and it just sets everything up for you,
yeah.
and then you're just like clicking buttons. It's
and
beautifully done.
It even like puts all your tiles in for you.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the tile taking phase, it puts them all
That's
in for
pretty good.
you, and it puts all the tiles you haven't like you've overused back into the game as well, and it does all your scoring for you. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Would recommend that mod. Brackets, support publishers, etc., etc. And I also played Scythe.
Hey!
Making a comeback.
Did it ever go away?
Yeah, I mean,
I think
Okay.
Root replaced it a little bit.
yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Root was
Okay.
the new thing for a while, but then the group that I play with was like, we should play Scythe again. I was like, okay. So Scythe report this week. Spoiler alert, I lost.
Oh.
Yeah. The thing is, I've accepted that, like, I know how to play the game roughly. Granted, we're a bit out of practice. So, you know, I wasn't so on the ball, but I just take forever to do anything. And I think I spread my efforts too thinly. Like the better Scythe player like focuses on, okay, I'm gonna try and do these objectives and get this much, you know, popularity and whatever. But I see everything within reach, and I'm like, yeah, I'll just sort of put a bit in this, put a bit in this. Before you know it, like an hour and a half in, everyone else got 4 stars and you're sort of sat there on 2.
Yeah.
And you're like, what did I do that whole time?
I do like the fact that every game of Scythe you get a different board, so no faction plays exactly the same way every single time. But there is definitely an element with Scythe where I think players can look at their board and look at their faction, and just through the knowledge accumulated from repetition, they can work out which strategy will work best for them in that particular scenario and then go for it. Because I think, unfortunately, if you do try and jack of all in Scythe, it might serve you well to begin with, but you're going to run out of steam eventually.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Like, the thing is, mechs are great because they get you places, especially if you're stuck somewhere where there is no metal. Like, you want to try and get a mech so you can get out of the location you're in, start gaining more resources. But upgrades are great if you're finding it really hard to get a mech.
Love an upgrade.
It means that you can lessen the amount of, you know, like, resources it takes to get a mech. So you're like, oh, maybe I'll work on that. And then you've also got the enlist with get you thing every time you build a mech. And you're like,
Delicious.
oh,
I mean,
should
why wouldn't
work
you?
on that as
Yeah.
well. Why not?
No.
They're all delicious. I
Yeah.
mean, it wasn't a criticism. It just wasn't praise.
It's very, very kind of you, Johnny. It's like I'm at a buffet and I'm putting like Wotsits and lemon meringue pie and like coleslaw on the same plate. And all
What
those
buffet
things,
are you going to? And
all
in
those-
what year?
all of those things are delicious in their
You know,
own
it's
way.
like you're at a buffet, it's 1992.
Yeah.
And your Wotsits have gotten into your lemon meringue pie, and
Yeah.
everyone else has got stars down on the board because they're having quiche. It's,
Yeah. They're playing the sensible route of like
Oh,
combining
man. I really want quiche now.
of combining like quiche with like some pickle or something, which is a delicious combination. Whereas you're like, I am just shoving everything I can on the plate, and in the end none of it really works. So
No.
Lolies, are you might writing a note of please get quiche or something?
Yeah, I'm literally telling myself quiche for dinner.
Good on you.
Quiche is excellent, but
I will forget otherwise.
Yeah, our friend won. So Matt also played. But one of my other friends won, who doesn't always win. So it was nice change of pace there.
That's nice. Yeah.
Dethroned the tyrant, as we call the
Wow.
player who usually wins. And I was just sat there at the end going, like, what happened? Like, where did I go wrong? Where did all my dreams, die? But maybe next time
Yeah.
I'll learn from my mistakes, maybe.
And you know what? The podcast will be waiting.
Oh yeah, they love this stuff. Like, regardless of whether I win or lose, they love this, right? They always want this.
Yeah, 100%.
The Scythe update, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Unless anyone else has played anything else,
Nah.
shall we move on to some news?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe.
This week. Maybe. Okay. Sorry, everyone. News is cancelled. Lolies and sure. Yeah, the news this week has been popping off, if I should say so myself. It's been a busy week. I'm gonna cover this first story, written by our very own Matt Jarvis, and it turns out that Tabletop Games have raised $236 million on Kickstarter
Wow.
in last year. So that's another record-breaking year for Tabletop Games on Kickstarter. Apparently that accounts for nearly a third of all the money raised on the site in 2020. So that's wild.
Yeah.
That's buck wild. Turns out that tabletop games are the popular on Kickstarter. Who knew? Yeah, so there's a lot of stats here. But apparently it's a massive increase year on year that Tabletop Games has seen funding on Kickstarter over the last 5 years. There's a lot of numbers on this, which isn't my favourite thing to do.
Sure.
So I'm sort of just getting to the fun bits. Obviously, some of the big names to mention are Kingdom Death Monster 1.5 is still the biggest. It used to be the biggest tabletop game on Kickstarter to date, but that was overthrown last year by Frosthaven.
Of course it was.
Which was enormous. It
Yes.
almost raised $13 million.
I mean, I guess part of that is because increasingly publishers are turning to Kickstarter as just a convenient way to fulfill pre-orders. But also, there's no denying that just the sheer momentum of games on Kickstarter, it really sort of carries over. It feels like, especially on Instagram, and whenever I get served ads online, it's like, look at this Kickstarter. It's got 400 miniatures. They always lead with that first.
Oh, yeah.
And that sort of feeling of Kickstarter being not just a way to pre-order, but to get it in the deluxe version. You'll get sort of Kickstarter exclusives, and to an extent, I think a lot of that plays off of the fear of missing out, which I sort of have feelings about. There have been times I've been like, oh, I should really ought to back this because I don't want to, and then I've held my ground and been relieved to just see it come to leisure games or whatever.
The FOMO is real.
Yeah.
I've seen, having browsed the board game section of Reddit, I've seen quite a few people, a common conversation on there is, we're getting sick of miniatures on Kickstarters, / Kickstarters are really expensive. And it's become such a common, subject of conversation that they've literally, it seems like there's now a weekly, okay, let's talk about this. And it's acknowledged amongst the users, let's have another conversation about the fact that, Kickstarters are expensive and some of us are getting sick of miniatures.
Because, a lot of people are sleepwalking into being wargamers. I firmly believe that if you want to go in for a war game, like Frostgrave or Warhammer or whatever, go for it. But it's when board games are look at all these delicious miniatures you get, and they're all unpainted resin or sort of just formed plastic. People get antsy, I think.
I think it's when it feels like it's not necessary. Like, I think this is this is a common subject of conversation on this podcast. I'd say a lot of the blame is on my shoulders because I just get a bit fed up with, like, particularly Kickstarters where, like, the majority of the content on the description is just, look at these miniatures, rather than, like, how does this game actually play? Well, not only is that annoying for me as a writer who needs to explain to people what the game is and what you do in it, it's also annoying for me if I was a consumer, because it's like, okay, well, there's all these miniatures, but why else should I care about this game? Like, I what if I don't care about the miniatures? What if there are great gameplay mechanics that they're just not bothering to, cover in favour of terrible pictures and miniatures sometimes. Terrible pictures. With the worst backgrounds. Other games include Nemesis Lockdown, which I was actually really interested in, which also has miniatures, but I want Nemesis is one of those games I really want to play because it's basically Alien, without the copyright. And Lockdown was a kind of spin-off, standalone expansion thing that was pretty popular. It got 7 million, and Return to Dark Tower, which got 4 million. A lot of people were excited about that as well.
The tower is pretty cool. I did see a prototype at one of the PAX.
I feel that.
It's pretty decent.
Yeah, I like the idea of a lot of it's nostalgia, because I imagine a lot of people, like with Hero Quest, for example, which wasn't on Kickstarter, it was on a separate... Broadsword, yep. It was on a separate funding site, and that did pretty well, from what I remember. It is a mixture of nostalgia with those kind of games, but also, like, I never played Dark Tower, but I know of it because it kind of has a notoriety of, one, it had that, advert with Orson Welles in it.
Oh, yeah.
One of the last things he did before he died. And it captures that period of weird kind of peripherals in games.
That works.
Yeah.
Gubbins,
which we're kind of seeing making a comeback in the form of apps, I guess.
I suppose so. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think apps can fall into the category of gubbins rather than just like an aid to cut through the nonsense. But I think people are more accepting of those nowadays.
Yeah. I think I'm willing to give them a shot if they work. If they add something. It's interesting to note that when it came to video games, obviously popular on Kickstarter as well. But comparatively, video games raised 22.3 million on Kickstarter in 2020, which is like 10% of the amount that tabletop games raised. And only 6 of the video game projects on there raised over $500,000. So it's funny to see, two mediums that obviously are different, but they have some crossover. The vast difference in terms of how much they're being used on Kickstarter, probably. Because video games cost a lot of money. Here's a little insight. They cost a lot of money to make.
They do. But I think also just the structure in terms of studios. A lot of publishers are risk averse, so they're willing to throw the big money behind projects, but only when they know that project is going to be is definitely going to make its money back. But also, while the development costs are very, very high, the cost of actually producing the game in terms of burning it into a disc or releasing a digital code is practically zero. So I think in terms of tabletop games, it does make a lot more sense to use Kickstarter to cover your production costs. In terms of, because we're talking about development cost and production cost as a physical object, and I think just because there's a lot more of that in tabletop games, I think it makes more sense to use a crowdfunding website as a metric for how many copies you need to make, basically. Because with a video game, it's, gosh, I hope we sell a lot of them.
Yeah.
And with a tabletop game, it's like, oh gosh, I hope we don't make too many of these. You know, so
Yeah.
a tricky business, which is why I'm not in it. I just talk about it because that's a lot safer, even if the wages are. Oh, sorry, I think my mic cut out there. What's next on there? What's next on the news?
Right. Okay. Next on the news. This is what I've written. Actually came out today, although technically when the podcast comes out, it would have been earlier in the week. So the co-designer of Dead of Winter, Isaac Vega, you know, they've also, you know, co-created projects like they made Forgotten Waters. Or did they make it? Or did they co-design it? It's fine. They were involved in Forgotten Waters, which came out last year. And they also helped create Ashen, Rise of the Phoenix Born. They've started their own publishing house alongside another designer called Lindsay Road. And the publishing house is called Rose Gauntlet Entertainment. And they've already announced several games that they're going to put out. One of them is called Keystone North America, which is a game about building an ecosystem using cards and actions, and the artwork's rather adorable. I use this one of a possum, I believe it is.
Oh, yes, a possum with 3 possum babies.
Yeah, with possum babies. And it looks like that's going to be a running series because they've already kind of confirmed the existence of Keystone Africa. So presumably it's going to be like, oh, here's a new continent, which is potentially it might be an expansion or a standalone game. We don't know for sure. There's also going to be a RPG called Life After Dungeon, which is described as a dungeon crawling RPG. So we had a chat with Isaac about Rose Gauntlet, and he confirmed that Life After Dungeon will be their first implementation of like digital integration with tabletop games. So they haven't confirmed what that's going to be, but you know, potentially an app or maybe. So the studio is also making a video game called Gone to Gaia. So it might be the case if there could be a video game version and an RPG. Again, none of this confirmed. But yeah, there's this Gone to Gaia video game, which is described as a deck building game where you play 3 different characters and you need to explore a world covered in a fog called the Tide. And that's going to be designed by Vega, so it's going to be his first sort of video game project. But they're all being published by Rose Gauntlet, so they're not just a tabletop publisher, they're a games publisher.
That's cool.
So those games are set to be released sort of in a mixture of timeframes. There's going to be a Kickstarter for Keystone in April. Then the other games are sort of coming around 2023, so nothing hugely confirmed yet. But yeah, hopefully should be exciting.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Our next story is so there are more Dune board games coming. So we've already had quite an influx of Dune themed board games recently. So there's obviously the remake of the original Dune, and there was Dune Imperium last year, and there's a Dune sort of tabletop RPG coming this year. But this is a new game from Portal Games. They do the Detective series. This game called Dune House Secrets is based off of the same system they use for Detective.
Honk honk. I did not know about this, but I'm mega excited now.
So, so it's going to be the first game. It's going to be in a trilogy of games.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one is going to be a series of a prologue and 3 episodes, where players become a group of rebels on the planet Arrakis, as things are kicking off there. So presumably there's going to be stuff involving spice and the different houses conflicting and things like that. So you're going to be looking to complete various missions during each of the episodes. And between episodes, with any experience you've gathered, you can sort of upgrade your character as well. So you can either play the episodes as a full campaign or as standalone experiences. And the decisions you make in the first game will have an impact on the second and third game, if you choose to play them.
Big into this.
So there's no specific details on how that's going to work, or any specific story details besides the whole you're on Arrakis, you're rebels. It is being made by a lot of the people involved with the detective series. So Ignacy Shevachek is on there. Same with oh gosh. Yeah, all the favourites.
Sure.
The release date is set for later this year, so Q3. And it's also specifically based on the upcoming film adaptation.
Oh, okay.
So it's not based on the books. It's based specifically on this new film by Denis Villeneuve.
Okay.
Which is coming out this year.
I think so. I'm marginally less excited now, just because I really love the books. And I would rather they were based on that. But still, I mean, I think I've spoken on the podcast before about how I'm a big fan of Detective. I think it's great. Although one of the cases in Detective season 1 is bunk. I think it's just a really nice sort of brain scratchy way to play. And if you can upgrade your characters in between, I think it'd be dead good. Because I imagine what that will do is make it easy for you to take certain actions. Because in Detective, for example, sometimes you'll want to chase down a lead, but you won't want to spend the time or the resources necessary to actually investigate. I bet you with character progression, it's to do with making those decisions less costly. Which I think it's sort of an addition I didn't realise I wanted for that sort of game, because I think when you get to the end of Detective, you basically answer a questionnaire, you take a pop quiz about what you think happened, and then it tells you how well you did, and sort of the reward you get for finishing a case is basically just knowing how much of it you got right. But if it also means the difference between being able to upgrade your character by X or Y amount, then that's a much bigger incentive, and I like it. So there.
Yeah. Well, this is the first sort of Dune game we've ever had that's been focused on story kind of elements. A lot of, the previous existing games have been very much set in the world, but not really like that.
Yeah, it's been about power and it's
the usual Dune stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was announced during Portal Con, which happened over the weekend. Exciting stuff. Okay, this next story is Warhammer related. So, Warhammer Quest, the next board game, has been announced, called Cursed City. This one is by Chase, by the way, our news writer.
Hi, Chase.
Yeah, Warhammer extraordinaire. So this is, I believe Johnny probably knows more than I do about this. But there are a series of dungeon crawling games, sort of based in the world of Warhammer.
Yeah. So there are some, like the last one released was Blackstone Fortress, which I believe is based in 40k, but this is definitely based in sort of Warhammer fantasy. And it looks dead good.
So it will take place in Ufulkan.
Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah, that'll do.
Close enough.
It's close enough.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of lore to do with dark gods and that sort of thing.
Yes.
Yes.
It looks very sort of almost Bloodborne-y or Silent Hill like. It's sort of, they're really leaning into the goth sort of grimdark aesthetic, which I know is what Warhammer's always been about, but like this feels extra. Like,
Looks cool.
yeah, it's like there's a dude with a rifle with an underslung stake launcher, and he's got broad leather belts for days. He's what's his name again? It's Derek, the former witch hunter expelled from his order, says this story, over unbecoming conduct.
Oh dear.
Maybe it's for his overly ostentatious hat. I don't know, but basically, I really want this miniature.
It is a bit much.
I
yeah.
like the miniature on the right. What's that?
Horrible is what it
I
is.
love it.
It's got a little baby down there. Have you seen it?
Baby?
Yeah,
I
it's like
would
a little...
say that's a corpse.
Oh, I thought it looked like a
They look
little
about the same
dead baby thing.
Mm,
Oh well.
God.
no.
Yeah, it could be a. Yeah, it's got
Yeah.
slugs. Anyway, it's going to be the 4th game in the Warhammer Quest series. And I don't think it has a release date yet. We don't know how much money it costs.
Yeah, no. Games Workshop tends to play its cards pretty close to its chest about that kind of stuff. Pre-orders tend to go live like a week or two before release. But yes, details presumably to come. It was part of a bigger sort of preview, showing off sort of the big hitters for 2021 for Warhammer. So there was more of the Lumineth, I think, sort of the faction they're focusing on at the minute for Age of Sigmar. There was a lovely new model for the Adeptus Sororitas in 40k, which I want because it's a big mech and it looks really cozy. Like, I know that sounds stupid in the dark future of the Imperium of Man, that there's a nun walking around in a mech that looks like it should be heated on the inside, but that's what it looks like. Kill Team got a new release. I think it might be. Is it Necrons? I don't know.
Yeah, hang on. I've got the news.
Oh, there is another news story there. I think it might be Necron Flayed ones. They're very, very cool looking. But yeah. Oh, there's a lovely. I haven't seen that build of the Adeptus Sororitas mech. Delicious. Sorry, I play Adeptus Sororitas, the Sisters of Battle, so that's why I'm getting all excited. But I'll shut up now.
No, you're a much better person to talk about this than me, because I'm literally just repeating stuff I'm seeing here. Well,
the headline news, basically, if you're just tuning in, is Games Workshop is quite busy this year, and they're still making a lot of money.
Oh yeah,
that's the long and short of it, basically.
All's well as ends well in that department. We got a quick news story here about the 15th anniversary edition of Ticket to Ride Europe. So yeah.
Oh no, I don't like it.
Yeah, just in case you need an
I haven't seen it yet.
Right.
Has it got solid gold stations or something?
No,
it's got these tins. I don't like the tins.
No, that's
the trains are pretty cool.
The trains are, in fairness, pretty cool. They're quite high detail.
Yeah.
And the stations, while not being solid gold, they're pretty nice.
They are nice.
They're two color plastic. But that's not how you do a game in a tin. Forbidden Island, that's how you do a game in a tin.
But I think that's for the components. That's for the individual train components, like for each player.
Okay, shut up, Johnny. That's
put
great.
Each of the trains in the tins there.
Yes, I should have twigged from the fact that there are 5 tins on the board. So the board presumably would not fit in any one of those tins.
Yeah. So in this version,
God.
celebrating the 15th anniversary of Ticket to Ride Europe, will feature these little tins that contain these newly designed trains and stations.
Oh no,
That's pretty cool, actually.
I do like it.
I'm changing my mind already.
Yeah, sorry, Ticket to Ride.
I don't like the tins. But I like the idea. I like what they were trying to do. But yeah.
So-
Sorry, go on, Meehan.
That's all right. So this new version is going to have new artwork and potentially a larger game board. The designer said, Alan Moon said, it's going to be bigger, but did not specify what exactly is bigger.
Okay.
But all the mechanics are still there. They're going to be the same. I think there's going to be some new cards that you can use in the game.
I've heard there's also going to be an optional rule whereby if you're building any train lines from mainland Europe to the United Kingdom, it takes 3 times as long as it normally does to get there. Bum, bum.
No.
Wonderful stuff. So there's yet to confirm exactly how much this is going to be, but it's going.
What the hell? I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the map, and Ireland is like on the map, but there's no trains going to Ireland. How sad. Anyway, go on.
It's because you get on the ferry, mate. It's great fun.
You get on the
You
ferry.
kidding? Love the ferry.
It's going to be released this spring. So if you want a fancy version of Ticket to Ride Europe,
It's spring now.
no, it's
It
not.
really isn't. It's January, mate.
What is
There's
Practically.
outside my window. There is snow.
Let's quickly move on to this news piece from Chase about a new card game from the designer of Citadels. This game is called Dreadful Circus.
Terrible name for a business.
I like the name.
Yeah, come and visit
No,
the
I
Dreadful
like-
Circus.
I like the
I
name
like-
as well. I'm just saying it's. I don't think that's going to be great for
Visitors, yeah.
for visitors. Sorry, I got distracted by Chase's picture on the site. He's very handsome, isn't he? Sorry.
Ooh. Got some admirers, Chase, if you listen to this.
Mid-sentence.
I'm pretty sure he listens to the podcast. He's mentioned it before.
Well.
I'm sure he'll love the compliment. Yeah, so it was
Chase,
also...
I'm sorry to say, Johnny is a married man. So
It is
back
true.
off.
Oh, Lolies stepping in. It was, also announced as part of the PortalCon live stream. So Bruno Falduti is making this game, or has probably made this game, where you have to erect your best possible circus.
Why did you shout that word like that?
Just, enunciating for the listeners.
Okay.
I was holding it together until Lolies went off. So you got to build a circus.
Yeah, you got to build a dreadful circus.
Uh-huh.
And however, players will earn abilities to change their scoring rules, and essentially affect how the end of the game will work out. So there's some skullduggery involved. And it's apparently designed to never be played the same way twice. So that's a promise. There will be a Kickstarter for the game coming later this year. And this was announced at the same time as 11 Football Manager. Presumably a board game about managing a football team.
Yeah.
There you go. And obviously the previously mentioned Dune Secret Houses.
House secret.
Secret
Secret
houses. House secret.
That sounds interesting. I mean,
I'm intrigued.
according to the piece, it plays out in about 35 minutes.
That
we
caught
all
my eye as well.
we all know the numbers on the side of a box are lies, but like the idea that there are different win conditions, it kind of feels like it would scratch the same itch as Root in a way, which I like the sound of because I bloody love Root.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, my friend. Root's pretty good. This last news story, rounding out the news, is also done by Handsome Chase.
As he is now known.
No, I'm not sure about that because it might. I don't want to make it a thing. You know,
Don't worry, I'm just teasing you.
HR's sick of talking to me. You know,
HR is talking to all of us all the time.
Yeah, especially after the sexy Matt debacle.
I don't know what that is, and I think it's better that I never know.
No, I'm joking. That
Oh,
never
okay. Oh,
happened.
thank God. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I
I
could
was
feel
like,
more
I don't
of my
remember
hairs
that.
going grey.
Yeah, so this news piece, the authors of Dragonlance have announced a new trilogy of, quote, classic D&D novels beginning this year. So this is all part of a larger sort of kerfuffle involving legal rights around the Dragonlance series of novels.
That's right, yeah.
That's been going on. Chase has done pretty much all the stories on this, so I'm not an expert. But this new set of books will be published by Del Rey Books Publishing, which is part of Penguin's Random House sort of science fiction fantasy section, in partnership with Wizards of the Coast. So they've given the go ahead.
I'm so sorry if you can hear my dog growling in the background, by the way.
That's all right.
I thought that was the wind.
Oh no, it's
No,
a small Staffordshire Bull Terrier.
Yeah, she's riled up. Yeah, so there's a lot of legal stuff. It went to court because the series was cancelled, I believe. But now fans can rest assured that they can they can continue the Dragonlance saga. Because apparently this is a continuation of the story taking place
Slide that door closed.
in the world
Carry
of
on.
Grim. Wow, this has been a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
Forgive us all, Mr. Jarvis. We're trying our best. The authors have said they couldn't be happier to return to the world they love. You can expect the first book in the new trilogy to be released later this year.
Hey.
Exciting stuff. I don't read the D&D books.
Me neither. I'm getting a good look at the covers here because there's a picture of the three of them in the
Yeah.
in the news post.
Gross.
They do indeed look like classic fantasy novels.
Oh yeah, they've got all the beloved parts. There's this very small. Is that a dwarf?
Yep.
Or a gnome.
Yeah, there's sort of done in a sort of very classic fantasy painting style, and then sort of with big bold text overlays. And I won't lie to you, I think they look hideous.
Yeah, no, gross. I almost got sick.
I think they're definitely challenging that classic fantasy aesthetic.
Yep.
I'm not a fan of either. I haven't read a lot of quote classic fantasy books. I'm more into the modern sort of stuff.
I think you'd get on with some Robin Hobb. Oh, we've talked about Robin Hobb before, haven't we? Or have
Really?
we? I don't know.
I really want to read this book called Mist of Avalon,
Oh.
which is apparently a classic fantasy book. That has nothing to do with D&D, so there you go. And that's all the news for this week.
All right.
It's time to move on to emails.
Emails.
Do my job for me. You can contact Dicebreaker at Join Dicebreaker on Twitter to send us a question, or you can send an email to
Podcast at dicebreaker.com, isn't it?
Probably.
Or contact at dicebreaker.com will also work.
Yeah, try either of those ones. Like whisper on the wind.
Listen to last week's podcast. Matt will tell you.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll hear it.
Or if you're just finishing a carton of milk or plant-based milk, just take the lid off again, whisper your question into that, pop it in the recycling, and your question will automatically reach us.
Yeah, because
magic.
Yeah, because recycling is magic.
Mm-hmm.
And we are magic, so therefore we are connected.
There we go.
Anyway.
We know when you don't rinse out your tins, so watch it.
Sort that stuff out, come on.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Johnny's looking at me when he's saying that.
Rinse your tins, Lolies.
Yeah.
I do.
Mm-hmm. All of them, every time.
We know if you don't rinse them. Lolies to make up for your crimes of not washing tins properly. Would you be able to read this question from Simon, please?
I'd love to. Simon says, "Hi guys.
Simon
says, all right, jump up in the air. Come on.
No.
Hope you're all safe and well. With the plethora of online games, I was looking to play something a different way and wondered if any of you had played any games, either RPGs or board games, by post or social media, Twitter, for example. Many thanks, Simon." And I'm looking at Johnny because I know Johnny's played something in the mail, right?
Oh, yes, I have. So firstly, I'm going to loop back to, it was almost a year ago now that I couldn't stop talking about diplomacy. But with Backstabber, you can basically play diplomacy by post, but online, and it's wonderful. If you want to fall out with a bunch of your friends at the same time, that is a genuinely great game. But playing by post. I mean, I've played solo journal writing RPG, The Machine, which is wonderful. And when you're done with the book, you're supposed to give it to somebody else. So that's what I did with a bunch of friends. We sort of like would make a hand. I posted it to a friend who sent it to someone else, and then one of my friends buried it in a field and left them a cryptic note and a trowel.
Oh my god!
To go dig it up. That was quite funny. And then when it was passed on again, it was hidden in the back of a painting that my friend snuck into our other friend's house and put on the wall. I'm not even kidding. So The Machine is a brilliant game that you can pass on between people. However, there is an RPG that I've really been meaning to play called The Resistance of New Holloway, which is a letter writing game. You are I guess like separatist agents, like living undercover and writing to one another about your efforts to resist a fascist government, basically. It was written in the run-up to last year's US presidential election when the US Postal Service was in danger, we shall say. And the idea was to fight fascism and protect the USPS at the same time. You write a letter and then you draw the top card off a deck of cards and post that along with without looking at it, and post it to your friend. And then they look at that card and that's their writing prompt for that letter. And then they write their letter, include one of their own cards, and send that off. I've not played it yet, but I am absolutely bursting to, because I think it's going to be wonderful. So, games by post, they are good. Also, there are plenty of games that you can play asynchronously, right? On tabletop sites or what have you.
Allows you to do that, and Root as well. They both allow you to play asynchronously.
Yeah.
Lolies, have you played any games via post or social media?
I don't think I have. It's a good question, actually. And the post thing really appeals to me. Like, I think that sounds like something I'd really like to go and have a go at. But I've never tried to set it up, I guess.
Neither have I. I've not really played... Yeah, I've not played game via social media or post or... I guess I've been intrigued by post. I think it's quaint, but it's not really something I use an awful lot myself, because I'm not really the kind of person who sends cards, because I kind of feel like you throw them away and it's a bit of a waste. I'm quite happy with just a message or something. But, I guess it does, like, add to the authenticity of things, too. Especially when it comes to RPGs and, like, journaling games and things like that. So
yeah, I mean, who doesn't love dunking a piece of paper in a cup of tea and burning the edges on the stove to make a treasure map?
Yeah, I tried to do that, and it wasn't very good.
Oh.
By the way, to remind everyone, Backstabber is spelled like grinder. I think that's what you told us the last time,
yes.
Johnny.
Yeah. Or Tumblr. Yeah, Backstabber.
Or Tumblr.
And there's, I guess, would Alice is Missing fall into this category? Because that's a role-playing game sort of played over WhatsApp. Or...
Yeah, I think so.
So I guess it is social media. You can play it over Messenger or whatever.
Same with this Discord. Has ghosts.
Oh yeah, that sort of like ghost hunting house exploration game. I've not played it, but it sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting. I think tabletop games have a lot of potential to, particularly RPGs have a lot of potential to be played in very interesting ways because they're a medium that can be kind of, they're not tied to, something like video games where it's like, I guess you have peripherals and different consoles and things like that, but with tabletop, you can do things like use post and such.
You know what? There was a friend put me onto this week. There's a video calling software, a bit like Zoom or Discord or whatever, called Gather, where you have a little avatar and you walk around a 2D environment. It's a bit like, it looks a bit like Habbo Hotel, or if you can remember
Wow.
such ancient things as Habbo Hotel.
Throwback.
I know, but basically, if you get close enough to a character, it puts you both in a video call. You drop in seamlessly, and you're like, "Hello," and then if you move away, you don't talk anymore. So it'd be really handy for when sometimes you're playing in real life an RPG session, and the DM says, "I need to talk to you for a minute." You can walk off and go to a different room and whisper secrets. You can just do that on Gather. And you can build your own environment. So I wasn't there last night, but my friends were playing in a virtual pub that they'd made. They were like, "Look, we've gone to the pub." Because that's just the stage we're at now in 2021. But anyway, it's Gather. I think it's gather.town. I think the possible applications for that are endless.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I've just written that down next to Quiche.
Next to Quiche. Oh, wow. You are going to have an absolutely banging evening.
Quiche, Gather.
Just having it. What's your favourite quiche? Just while we're on the topic.
Oh, do you know what? I was thinking about this during the podcast actually, because I was like, what
I'm
will
glad
I
you're
make?
so keyed into what's going on, Lolies.
I don't think I've had a quiche since I haven't been eating meat, and I used to always have like bacon and something else.
Quiche Lorraine.
Yeah.
Classic.
But the thing is, it's not that I don't eat meat, it's that I try to not eat meat.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of thinking I could just get a pack of bacon just for this, I guess.
Get some veggie bacon if you can get it. This isn't bacon. Nom.
Yeah. I'll think about it. But yeah, bacon I think would be my go-to. Because you need something like salty, something like that, I think, in there, just to lift it away from the bland egginess of the...
Yeah, sometimes you get a cheese and tomato quiche and the tomato's just wet.
Yeah, I don't want a wet tomato. No, thank you. I'm a big fan of broccoli. I love broccoli in anything.
Fair.
I'll eat broccoli.
Yeah, me too. I actually had in my head bacon and broccoli. I think would be a great combo.
Broccoli and cheese is an excellent choice.
Bit of Stilton in there, absolutely.
Oh yes.
Not so much that.
Okay, so thank you, Simon, for your email about quiche. That's a lot to think about there. Lot to think about.
Johnny, would you like to read this next question from Will, please?
Yes, very much so. Hiya, Dicebreaker gang, starts Will Sawyer. I'm pretty new to running RPGs. Currently, I've only run 3 sessions of D&D, and I'm enjoying it a lot. But I'm finding playing some of my story-critical NPCs a lot harder than I thought I would. Generally, I have a strong idea of how the NPC behaves and speaks going into an adventure, but when it comes to acting in front of my players, I struggle to maintain the character because I guess I get sort of awkward and embarrassed about it. I'm assuming this is just one of those gets better with experience situations, but I just wondered if you had any advice on how to get over that acting anxiety and maintain staying character. Cheers, Will.
I think you're right, Will, in the sense that experience definitely helps. I think when you first start role-playing, it is very easy to kind of get overwhelmed by the thought of, I'm doing something silly. And it is silly, role-playing is very silly. I think it's fine to embrace that kind of ridiculousness and kind of run with it. Not in the sense that all your characters have to be, ridiculous. Just in the sense that as soon as you come to terms with that, I think it helps with the social anxiety, because I don't think any of your friends would laugh at you for what you're doing or think less of you because you're doing something lovely for them. You're running a game for them, and I'm sure they want to feel immersed in the story that you're telling. So if you just go for it, there's really nothing to lose. And just like embrace having fun with that. I know it's a lot easier said than done to kind of go, oh, just relax, it's fine, because social anxiety doesn't exactly work as simply as that. But I think if you kind of hold on to that thought of, my friends want this, and they like me, and they like, this story, then I think that will help you, overcome this feeling of social anxiety you're feeling.
I think that's excellent advice, and I think, knowing that it will improve with practice and just going for it are two great things to bear in mind. I also think determining what it is that you're going for in your head also helps. Like, I know you said that, you've got a great idea of who these characters are on paper, and then they don't survive the encounter with the players. I think that's fine. And not every character, not every NPC has to be a fully realised, like Daniel Day-Lewis depth sort of character. I think, you don't have to worry about doing mannerisms and an accent and a certain pattern of speech or whatever. You can tiptoe up to those things by just introducing like one aspect. Because I find, from my experience as a player with NPCs, players only really need one thing to remember about that character, and it will make them more fully realised in their head. So, for example, you could have an NPC that speaks in exactly your voice and sounds exactly like you, but you can just try as much as possible to start every sentence with the word "well" and end every sentence with "do you understand?" Because that in and of itself is distinctive and memorable enough that the next time, say you hear a voice out of the shadow saying, "Well, that was terribly awkward. Do you understand?" They'll go, "Oh, it's blah."
Yeah.
You don't pressure yourself to give an Oscar-worthy performance from the get-go with absolutely everyone, because sometimes you can just do soft touches, and sometimes you can deliberately phone it in, and it's just as effective.
I think with actual play video series and podcasts becoming a lot more popular, it can put a lot of pressure on people to deliver that kind of level of quality of storytelling. And I'll give you a clue. A lot of the people who do that stuff, like with Critical Role, they're actors already. Like, they've been trained in this stuff for years. They have experience acting. It's fine that you're not going to have a perfect accent for every character that you make. Accents are really hard anyway. I struggle at them. I'll usually pick one that you can do very strongly, so that it at least I can maintain it somewhat. But don't push yourself to, like Johnny said, provide an Oscar-worthy performance. What do you think,
I agree with
Loli?
both of those points, and
Yes.
I know from my point of view, I was quite new to RPGs when I joined Dicebreaker, and so much so that I never did accents, or I never really kind of role played. I never really did the role playing part of the RPGs so much before Dicebreaker. And I think you can even see if you look back at some of the earlier RPGs that I was a part of, you can see that I didn't really characterize much because I was quite nervous. It was new people, and also for me, I might have, for some of these characters, I might have also had an idea of what I wanted to do, but when it came to it, my mouth open, I was just no, I'm just gonna talk normal. And and I think I did just get to a point where I got a bit more comfortable, and I just started slowly feeding in maybe doing an accent or just doing something silly, and kind of built it up on that. But even having said that, we filmed an RPG a couple of weeks ago, and again, I had an idea of what I wanted to do, and when it came to it, I just was drew back and was no, I don't want to do it. So I still get that, even though we've now been doing RPGs together for a year, and I've kind of done some weird characters and lots of weird voices, and
Harry Otter will remain in my heart forever.
Do you know what I mean? But when I did Harry Otter that evening, I was in that space where I was happy to do it, and I just wanted to get silly. Whereas when we filmed the other day, I wasn't in the same headspace, and I just had to give myself a break and just play the character differently than what I had imagined because I just wasn't ready to do it that day. And so like, you know, give yourself a break, but obviously like, yeah, what the other two have been saying, but also like, you know, maybe just feed in something small here and there, and eventually over time you will just go crazy off the wall and won't even think about it anymore.
Yeah. I'm going to use last question from @bmovies212. They've asked, since one of my friends is trying to organise a Zoom D&D game over Roll20 for us, what are your guys' memories of your first D&D experience?
My first D&D experience was, I think, actually January 2018, something like that. It's like almost bang on 2 years ago. And it was my friend Sunny had been DMing a bunch of people already, a bunch of friends of mine. And so he came to the office that I was working in because a bunch of us wanted to try D&D. And he was like, yeah, I'll run a one shot for you. So he came in, and it was myself, my colleague, and one of the managers of the company. And we kind of did this thing at the beginning where we established our characters and our relationships with each other, and somehow it turned into the manager, he was like, he had come up with this like ridiculous character who just smelled of poo, and I think he might have been a dwarf, I can't remember. I feel like he was quite short, I don't remember exactly what he was, but I actually have a picture that I drew of it in my notepad at the time, and it just ended up being really silly. And I remember that after the session, my colleague, who was a woman, went to the GM and was like, was this and this like a reference to like the company? And he was like, yeah. So like he'd made all these, he'd kind of built this world and actually took people from the company and put them in as NPCs. And I did not get that at all, because I was so concentrating on like trying to play the game that I did not get any of the references. And at the end she was like, yeah, this and this, and I was like, oh my god, and I missed all these references. And I was like,
that's amazing.
I enjoyed the gameplay, but then I also like, once I kind of figured all that out, or well, till it was revealed, I was like, oh my god, that's so cool that you could do that, and like you brought all these people that we know into the game, and I had no idea. And yeah, I was hooked. I was really hooked after that first session.
That's awesome.
It was really good. Yeah.
My route into D&D, I first, like, I'd been playing pen and paper RPGs for about 6 or 7 years before I even touched D&D. And I ran, I think, 3 sessions of it for some friends, just going through the starter box like the Lost Mines of Fandel there. And then I didn't touch it again for a couple of years when we started the Oxventure. So I only had 3 sessions of D&D under my belt when we started that. And my first time as a player came a couple of years after that, I think, when I did Questing Time live in London. Questing Time is run by Paul Foxcroft, who's an amazing DM and just all-round performer. So yeah, I was on stage in a sort of sold-out venue of people who were incredibly rowdy. And I was just sat there, I was like, this is my first actual game of Dungeons and Dragons. And I played a dwarf called Good Nice Dwarf.
Oh, nice.
Because I came from a family of dwarves where older siblings were allowed to name the new children. So I think it was canon that I was called Good Nice Dwarf and that I named my younger sibling Prick. So
oh my god!
Yeah,
wow.
Good Nice Dwarf was an interesting character. But yeah, what about you, man?
Yeah, so D&D, like a lot of people, was the first RPG I played. Which was an interesting experience. I played as a rogue because I've always liked characters that I like the idea of being a character that squats in a dark corner and kind of like laughs at the fact that no one else knows they're there. And it's why I like stealth games. I just love that feeling of watching people and they're clueless. But this character was quite low level though, so there was not really many opportunities for her to do that. She had dual wielding blades. She was very sort of teenager level of angst. and she just wanted money all the time. And so we were in this fairly bog standard dungeon, and rather than go with the others to kind of fight the main boss, she ended up going into a room filled with monies and being locked in there for eternity. Because it turns out it was a trap.
Oh my god!
Wow, I was
hilarious.
expecting trap. I wasn't expecting eternal.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
brilliant.
At that point I wasn't clued up enough to think I should maybe roll like a perception check or something to see if there's any, because she could identify traps. I just didn't bother to do it.
Yeah.
Why would you?
I mean, not to criticise the DM and not to sound like Bean Dad, but that was definitely a teachable moment.
I mean, it was intended to be a one-shot. It's not like this is a...
Oh, okay. Oh, fine then. I thought you were going to say, like, this is a campaign.
No, this was never intended to be like, oh, this is the
Okay.
epic campaign we're playing. No, this was always intended to be a one-shot. And I wasn't hugely attached to the character. And I thought it was pretty funny, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
That's
I would
that's
find that
pretty
very
funny.
What
Yeah.
a way to go out. Because the thing is, all the other players' characters perished at the final boss anyway.
Oh lord.
Because they were hopeless.
Yeah.
So, I guess at least she died doing what she loved.
How did you find your first sort of D&D experience, well, your first role-playing experience, ending in a TPK? Did that put you off at all?
I didn't. The thing is, I think the DM played it very much in the sense of, like, these are the rules and this is what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay. And I kind of at that point, I kind of knew that my fun with playing RPGs isn't so much the system, it's more, okay, what opportunities can I have to act as this character? And that's why I kind of leaned into her very rudimentary sort of character traits of, I like money.
Sure.
So the fact that everyone else died, I found more funny than anything else. And I think everyone else was relatively okay with it because, again, we weren't expecting to take these characters beyond that session. Like, a few months, I'd say, after that, I got more into role-playing games as a long-term thing. I played, like, a fairly long Pathfinder campaign with a character that I did like very much, and another D&D campaign with a character I liked. So I had those experiences, but I think the first experience was really just like the potential for wackiness that I kind of experienced, and like I can make these characters that hopefully have evolved beyond I like money and maybe have a bit more nuance now, but like you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
And with that, that's the last question. Thank you for your questions. Once again, hit us up at Join Dicebreaker on Twitter if you have any questions of your own. But now it's time for the video team to tell us. Well, Lolies.
Yeah, I'm so ready.
To tell us.
Go for it, mate.
What is going on the video side of things? What do the viewers and listeners have to look forward to on YouTube/Dicebreaker?
Well, I'm so glad that you asked, Alex Meehan, because I have got the content
I
schedule
can tell.
in front of me this minute. And what we've got coming up is, well, today is Friday,
Yeah.
as podcast listeners will know. And on Wednesday, you will have seen our first ever episode of You've Never Played, where we show Johnny a flip and right, which he thought was going to be a roll and right, but it's actually a flip and right.
Yeah, but it's a new series where somebody who hasn't played an absolutely vital tabletop game plays it and sort of tries to see what all the fuss is about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was Welcome
And we played Welcome 2.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
we talked about earlier. And
was very good fun.
that was really good fun, yeah. And
Over the weekend, our adventures in Age of Sigmar Soulbound, the Warhammer RPG,
Yep.
continue. We've also got a feature coming up on out-of-print games that we wish were still around. And then we're straight back into a new week. which will start with, we'll have another episode of You've Never Played. We've got a live stream. We haven't settled on a game for that one yet. And then podcast, couple more features. Time marches inevitably onwards, Alex Meehan.
Yes.
Like, subscribe, and ring that bell icon.
Yeah.
How about the website?
That's all that really matters in the grand scheme of life. Yes, so the website. So usually Mr. Jarvis does this part. However, he has kindly left me some notes to use because his brain is like a library. It just holds vast amounts of information.
In the Dewey Decimal System.
Exactly. It's a marvel. So on the website we've got coming up, Jason Coles has put out a preview of the new Coldheim Magic the Gathering set, which is very exciting. I did a little bit of news on that. There's some interesting cards and characters being included in that set, so you can read that on the site right now, I believe. Coming up is a very interesting feature by Kieran Trivedi on Vampire the Masquerade, the role-playing game, and how it's dealing with its problematic past and what Dungeons and Dragons can learn from the recent changes going on over there, because
it does sound interesting.
It's been taken over by Renegade, who are a good lot, and they're making efforts to change things for the better. There's also another feature coming up from Reed Connolly on the benefits of logging gameplays. My list of the best board games available now should be up by now. We said this 2 podcasts in a row, but we've been having technical difficulties. But by God, it's coming. Don't worry. It's probably up by now. So that's just a list of what you should have on your shelf right now. And there is also a review of Dune Imperium, the deck building game that I really want to play, coming up on the site, which is very exciting. So if you want to know whether it's worth getting your hands on that, you can find out on Dicebreaker.com.
Delicious.
But until...
Yum, yum,
Yum, yum, yum.
Yum, yum, yum. Eat that quiche. And until then, next episode, next week, where hopefully Mr. Jarvis will be back, please. It's a lot of pressure, you know.
You did a great job. Don't worry about it.
You're too kind. I have been Alex Meehan, staff writer for Dicebreaker, joined by Alex Lolies.
Thank you for having me.
And Johnny Chiodini. What indeed. And until next time, stay safe out there and have a lovely day.
Send us pictures of quiche.
Send us pictures of quiche.
Bye.